In our most desperate moments, it takes strong faith to keep hope alive. We begin in a remote jungle area of south-central Mexico. In February of 1992, Maryland dentist Jim Ray, his wife Karen, and their 8-year-old son Billy were on a goodwill mission to bring much-needed care to the local Indians, never once expecting that they would become the ones in need.
I go on mission trips. I feel a calling to do that, to take some time off and to try to help other people. The people are wonderful down there. And we go to very remote villages where they seldom see any type of medical personnel. There are no roads into these areas. There are trails, you can take rivers, you have to hike.
Louise Slammers was one of the missionaries on the trip.
We knew we had quite a walk, and you saw some real nice rivers, lots of flowers, very jungle-like area. We knew, of course, that there's always a risk to doing work like this.
My wife, she was very enthusiastic about going. Billy, we left the decision up to him, and he decided that he would like to go with us.
When we left the village, it was sort of like a long dirt road, no jungle on either side. The trail was about like 2 iguanas wide.
Ruth Brooks was the group's dental technician.
The first couple of hours we were walking, I was like, we can't do much more of this. It was really hot. And the Indians, they'd pass us, they'd just run by.
I have horses at home, and you couldn't take horses over these trails. Only mules, burros could keep their footing going up and down these trails because it just gets too treacherous.
We came to a big grassy area where there were 4 paths coming together like an intersection. So I named that the mule intersection.
We got to a point where it was a really steep incline, and I just remember looking up and thinking, another hill to climb.
Karen had been walking for quite a ways, and she had some shortness of breath because she has some asthma problems. You easily feel at home with her, so you share experiences quite quickly. And we also had built a friendship, actually, which was unforgettable.
Un machetero adelante.
It was very narrow because we were walking single file, and at that point the vegetation is so thick you don't know how far down it is.
We didn't even know the cliff was there because there was a lot of trees and stuff.
We went up maybe a couple hundred yards, something like that, and Karen was behind us riding the mule.
Mule started to lose its balance and misstep the rocks. Then she couldn't hold on anymore. She fell quite deep, which we didn't realize right away.
She's down far. I just kept thinking, this can't have happened.
Oh my God! Stop!
It was a terrible drop. At that point, I ran back down, and she was down off the cliff, and I thought she was dead.
when we continue.
We're going to get help, but we will be taking her back to a village that took us a rough day to get into. There are no doctors, there are no clinics. What do we do there?
While on a mission of goodwill in an isolated area of Mexico, more than 100 miles from the nearest doctor, Karen Ray fell off a cliff, plunging to the jungle floor below. Her husband Jim ran down to try to help her.
Ve por ayuda, trae un doctor y unas gentes que ayuden. Alguien de rescate.
I saw her move, and I knew she wasn't dead.
La maleta después.
She's alive.
And I could see that there was blood all over her head and on the jungle floor.
I was just thinking it had taken us 2 days to get there, and how are we going to get her out of here?
I saw that my mom was really badly hurt. At that point, I began to get really scared.
Okay. Porque está en shock, está fría.
I took the antibiotics and I dumped them in the water, and I poured it in the wound to try to clean it as best we could. And I just held her head for a period of time. But she kept asking if we could go home. And I told her yes. But I didn't know how.
Que venga gente a ayudarnos, a ver cómo le haces.
The Indians decided to run to the village for help, to carry her.
Para hacer una camilla porque no la podemos mover porque a lo mejor se rompió algo la señora.
I had actually had a fear that maybe she would be paralyzed because she couldn't move her legs.
The girls are going to go back with Louise. I want you to go back with them, okay?
Billy didn't want to go back early, but the Indians move so fast. When they get here with help, they're probably going to move very fast and leave us behind.
Get back there, Bill.
We know you're going to be all right.
I went back with 2 Indians, and one of the Indians ran ahead.
She kept saying, my back is broken. But my biggest concern at that point was the head wound. I was very concerned about swelling in the brain because she took quite a blow. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get help to carry her out of this situation, but we will be taking her back to a village that took us a rough day to get into. What do we do there? There are no doctors, there are no clinics, there are no phones, there are no communications whatsoever. There are no roads to that village. I did know that they had a grass landing strip for a bush plane, but this was Sunday, and they don't fly on Sunday. I felt totally helpless.
Hey.
A lot of villagers came back. They cut down balsa trees, and they didn't have ropes, so they used vines to make a stretcher.
Tienen que exportar.
Hay que amarrar aquí, rápido. Okay.
Have a sleeping bag here, please.
Let's put her under her.
We spread a bedroll out right next to her. Gently rolled her away from the bedroll.
Okay, now.
And rolled her back on it.
Very easy, very easy. Take your time, take your time. A ver, más para allá, más para arriba. Con cuidado, ten cuidado de sacudirla.
We just kept trying to comfort her about the back problem. I don't think she felt the head wound at all. Even though they were carrying her, they were still moving very fast. And I was trying to keep up, and I couldn't. And they were getting further and further away from me. There were 4 river crossings. What the Indians did was they simply plunged right in the shortest way. And to see them carrying her across this river was remarkable. At one point, they stopped to tighten the hammock and the stretcher because it was really bowing. And they laid her down on the ground. And they stopped and they laid hands on her and they prayed. It was the only time that I heard her stop groaning. It was the longest day of my life. Constantly trying to figure out what we can do, praying about it, hoping for a miracle.
It was not a custom for that plane to be there. It happened to be flying in the area and they called it down, which was a real blessing for us.
It was an incredible miracle that the plane was there. This missionary has been there for 25 years. He has never known it to fly in on a Sunday. It just doesn't happen. And yet here it was.
There was like villagers just lined up all around the side, like standing in the shade. Some of them were just crying.
The kids were really excited because when the plane left, then they all started running in the wind because they don't have wind there.
Less than 5 hours after Karen's fall, she was on her way to Tuxtepec, the nearest town with a doctor, more than 100 miles away. Once there, she was taken to Dr. Paulino Garcia's clinic.
I was worried because we weren't sure of the degree of her injuries. We definitely knew there was a problem with her pelvis, but we didn't know to what extent. I wasn't sure if she would be able to walk again. I had to call my colleague in Veracruz, a neurosurgeon. I explained what had happened, and he told me precisely what I needed to do to avoid a cerebral edema. So we administered steroids to arrest any possible swelling of the brain. It was very important for us to monitor her condition over the first 72 hours. We saw that she was improving very well, and that encouraged us and her family.
In the 2 years since the accident, Karen Ray has been recovering from her fractured pelvis and nerve damage from the back injury she suffered as a result of the fall.
It's a slow recuperation and probably won't be 100% again, but I'm just so fortunate to have had the care that I had.
Hey Rust, come here buddy. The missionary said that this is an opportunity for these Indians to turn around and give help back. And they really did. They turned out, they did everything they could. It has confirmed our faith in people. It has strengthened our faith in God.
Dr. Garcia is just an incredible gentleman. He was just such a kind man. I'm really touched that somehow he came into my life.
What was really amazing, he didn't charge us anything, except for maybe a couple of antibiotics. Was like, in American money, would probably be about $1 for like 5 days in clinic.
I wouldn't have traded that day in the jungles for anything in the world. It's a very humbling experience to think you're going to go help people, and it gets totally turned around, and you are the recipient of all the help. That's very humbling.
Jim plans to return to the remote jungle villages of Mexico to return the kindness of the Chinanteco Indians and continue his mission of goodwill.
I'm looking forward to seeing them again because they really pour it all out from the heart. And I know that if physically she is able to, Karen would like to do it again.
If I could speak in Chinanteco dialect, I'd probably say thank you for saving my mom's life.
Next.
It was so fast. I'd never seen anything like that. I just knew that someone was hurt. There had to be someone hurt.